Here we go. Barn doors open and the pigs start to fly. One more time, at least, in 2016. Welcome to the Flying Pigskin Show with Keenan Singleton. I'm Ken Broo. Who day is who done?
Yes, indeed.
Saturday night, they melted down in the final minute, 36 seconds. Coaches melted down. Players melted down. Complete meltdown in the final 2 minutes of that game.
Fans melted down too, if you believe that Deadspin report with all the arrests that were going on in the stands and anarchy out there.
You know, what did the NFL expect when they put Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in prime time on the heels of what happened a month ago, and then assigned the same referee who couldn't control things a month ago? You know, you wonder just sometimes.
Insanity, right?
Well, I mean, just think about that. What do they expect? Just absolute. I mean, when I saw all this in advance of the game, I said they're just asking for trouble.
To me, it was kind of like you're a Charlie Brown Peanuts fan, I'm assuming.
I am, yes.
It was kind of like Lucy and Charlie Brown. You know, she puts the ball out there. Charlie always thinks that the ball is going to be there, and they pull it away. And I'm referencing right now the Bengals taking the bait from the Steelers. I mean, they talked about it. It was kind of a rote kind of message from the guys in the locker room where we've talked about this. We're not going to let them get in our heads, and there it was all over again. Coaches talked to us. Still didn't work.
And I think it's disingenuous for them to start blaming Joey Porter for being out on the field.
AKA Jerry Porter.
Yeah. What?
Adam Jones refuses to call him Joey Porter.
Calls him Jerry Porter?
Jerry Porter.
My point being is that if you say we're not going to take the bait, that's from everybody. Mm-hmm. That's from players, coaches, team broadcasters, equipment guys, trainers, whatever. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I thought the game was an embarrassment the way it was played. It was embarrassing for the NFL. It ought to be embarrassing for Mike Brown, and it ought to be embarrassing for the Rooney family. It was just absolutely, as Jim Nantz said, a disgrace.
In the locker room, they have little inspirational quotes in the locker room, and the quote this week for the team was from Mike Brown: "The key to winning is poise under pressure."
Yeah, that's what his dad said.
And Paul Brown said that, and clearly the team didn't take that quote to heart.
We got our merry band of characters behind the controls today. Let's bring them on in and introduce them left to right across your television dial. B. Neasy, Brian Neese. Somewhere a Smith brother is missing. In the middle, Matt Lukin, Mike Strotman, who was on the sideline.
Got a little wet out there.
Saturday night, I saw Mike there.
Keep that battery dry.
Mr. Keenan.
The fabulous, talented, and wildly entertaining Libby Duber is with us.
Libby is hard at work getting some great sound from the locker room today for us right now.
That's Mike Cannon.
And Mike Cannon, who invented WCPO.com.
Thank you, Mike, for that.
And he runs it.
We want to thank the folks at Furniture Fair, Ed Hartman and whatnot.
Ed, I'm very relaxed.
Big show coming up. You know where we're at. We're here live. We stream live. We're on the internet with the shows downloadable 24/7,
iTunes.
365 or 364 and a half, because they probably shut it down for maintenance like six hours a day at some point. And we're also up on iTunes as well. So it's pretty darned exciting. Big show coming up today. We got superfan Tanner Myers. We got Rodney Heath. We got the now seemingly mythical Jim Breach, Bengals all-time leading scorer. Before we get to all of that, Matt, your thoughts on Saturday night, because I'm sure as you live and die with this team, you're barely alive today.
That would be a correct assessment. This is just what every Bengal fan has in the back of their mind, in the pit of their stomach when these things come up. And this was probably the most crushing. When the Bengals took the lead with a little under 2 minutes, I still was scared. I was like, I thought Roethlisberger's going to come out, then whoever that other guy comes out, Vontaze gets the interception. At that point, I believed. I did. I thought
were you more scared because it was the Bengals or because of the Steelers?
The whole thing. It's mainly the Bengals. The Steelers. It's mainly the Bengals. The Steelers just make it worse that it's them. If it would have been the Texans, I still would have felt the same way about the the potential outcome. But having the Steelers be there just makes it 10 times more painful. And if you go to games like I do, everybody hates the Steelers in Cincinnati if you're a Bengals fan from the Carson thing and from way back in the day. But if you go down there and you see them come down there with those damn towels all the time, I mean, it's annoying and you just hate them. There's nothing you can do but hate them.
You have to almost blame fans of the Bengals though, because you guys are the ones that are selling these guys the tickets.
I'm not sticking up for the Bengals in any way. Okay, they deserve what they get. They bring it to the table every year like this. And it is just our lot. The only thing I can do is move, because if I live here, I can't not be a Bengal fan.
Don't go to Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was just the worst thing. And when Vontaze made that interception, I think didn't he had the one with like a minute and a half to go?
Yeah, and I thought
at that point I thought we had
the game's over.
No, I thought at that point they're in trouble.
I started to laugh. I was like, oh my God, it's really good.
I'll tell you why. I'm standing in the tunnel that leads into the Bengals locker room.
Yeah.
And he takes that interception, and he and his posse come running all the way back up through the tunnel, and they go back into the locker room. And I'm standing there saying, what's this? What are you doing?
Game's not over.
And I think at that point, that's when things went south for him, because I think they lost all focus the minute he ran up the tunnel. I really do. They certainly lost focus on defense. And then you had the problem with the fumble by Jeremy Hill. But it's like you play 60 minutes. You don't play 58 minutes and 34 seconds. You play 60 minutes. So, but I feel badly for Bengal fans. I really, honestly, that was my overwhelming feeling on Saturday nights. I feel badly for you. I'm not a fan of the team. I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of the story. But these people, like Matt, that live and die with the Bengals, I really and truly feel sorry for them.
I mean, to go from that high after that interception to really the lowest of low, I mean, within the span of 5 minutes, that can't be healthy for your heart.
Let's bring in the Bengals' all-time leading scorer, Jim Breach, who was probably dying a little bit on Saturday night. Hello, Jim.
Hey, guys. How are you doing? So my voice is not great. I kind of left it on the field.
Yeah, there you go.
Saturday night at the stadium.
Let's talk about poise under pressure, because I thought in the final minute 36, the coaching staff and the players looked at poise and said, let's just throw this out the window. You're paid for when things go wrong.
Like a used diaper.
Yeah. What'd you feel about that, Jim?
They imploded. How do you run into what was he thinking? Running into the locker room after the interception. How did they not throw a penalty flag for excessive celebration? I don't get that one.
Right.
I guess he couldn't see it because he was in the locker room.
Apparently they didn't realize he had left the field.
Right. But I look at Jim, I look at this. I look at that. Obviously, Hill's fumble. I look at the coaching decisions, and we can get into this because
on both sides.
I'm a big believer that of what they should have done is you're down on their 35-yard line, you take a knee, or you quarterback sneak it, or you do anything to make Pittsburgh burn its 3 timeouts, and then you kick a field goal. You're paying Mike Nugent a lot of money. I know the conditions weren't great there. And lastly, when they're coming back down the field with Roethlisberger, everybody in that stadium knew he didn't have a right arm.
He can't throw it.
And so they're dropping 8 and rushing 3, or dropping 7 and rushing 4. I'd have rushed his butt and try to do exactly what Burfict did to him to knock him out in the first place. I had no idea what Paul Gunther was doing. Any thoughts on that, Jim?
They're trying to get time off the clock. They did get they got some 30-yard help there at the end.
Yeah.
They didn't need. I kind of disagree on when they ran the ball. I think they need to get first down. First down wins the game. Then they can kick a field goal when they have no timeouts. Probably 20 seconds to go in the game. Up by 4. So
you don't think Nugent could have made a 46-yard field goal?
Yeah, I'm not saying he couldn't have, but I don't think that's the way to play it. I think you play to win the game, not to lose it. Taking a knee to me is playing not to lose.
I think I agree. I think the Jeremy Hill decision to run the ball is okay. I think that at that point you're not running for yards, you're running for time. So I think he can have both arms on that ball. You have it secure, and obviously he didn't. He still only had it in his right arm. So I don't question the decision. I question his decision not to cover it up.
Yeah, if they get the first down there, and you're
over.
supposed to, right, and Jim's right, you're supposed to be conservative, but that's what they were doing. You're just supposed to be able to run the ball if like Brian said this before we started, the only task he had was to not fumble the ball, and He didn't, but that's one of the many mistakes the Bengals played. I mean, they got screwed so many ways with the way the game was officiated, but that's not why they lost. They still should have won the game.
They lost because they couldn't
everything.
run the ball.
Right. Well, no,
they couldn't run the ball all
they
season.
They couldn't hold on to that fumble. They couldn't, there's a lot of things, but even with all the bad calls, a lot of teams have that happen. If the situation were reversed and Paul Gunther had gone out onto the field and caused them to, get a couple penalties and we won at the end, we wouldn't feel bad about it. We feel like they deserved it. Screw them. And that's how the Steelers feel.
Well, wait, Joey Porter didn't lose that game. Joey Porter isn't the reason why the Bengals lost that
I'm
game.
not saying he is. What I'm saying is that the Bengals lost that game. With everything that happened, there's so many times that they did what was wrong, and it's their fault that they lost the game. But that call, running the ball, you can go back and forth on that, but he's supposed to be conservatively running and holding onto the ball.
You have to run the ball.
He should be able to do that.
You don't want to kick a field goal when it's pouring rain from 50 yards.
Yeah, if they take 3 knees and then miss the 45-yarder, we'd be sitting here talking about how stupid that was.
Right.
And give them the ball on the 40-yard line or 50-yard line.
With all their timeouts.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been 10 times worse, and missing a 45-yarder in a rainstorm.
Well, they wouldn't have had all their timeouts.
Yeah, I think they had all.
No, you would.
Okay,
If you're
okay, you're right. You're right, but they still have the ball on like the
Right.
45. Where would it would have been on the
Then they'd have
40-yard
20
line?
seconds left.
46. It'd be a 46-yard field goal.
Yeah.
Well, you have 4 downs. You're going to use 3 downs, burn as much clock as you can, or make the Steelers run out their timeouts. So
Well, that would be the idea to have them run out their timeouts.
right. So they get, even if you miss the field goal, they get it on the 25, and it's they have no timeouts.
They get it on the 38-yard line.
Yeah, and then there's no, but then they don't have any
So,
timeouts.
but
Instead of coughing up the ball.
Wouldn't you rather get a first down,
Right.
Yeah.
make them use their timeouts, and then they don't even get a chance to get the ball?
Right.
Yeah,
Just
I
run the
mean,
clock.
Well,
yeah.
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 Jim,
And they were-
I thought
when you get
defensively,
started-
though, in the wake of that, I thought defensively, I didn't know what the hell they were doing. Because you got a guy who can't throw the ball. He said on the sidelines to his coach, you could see him, don't call any play. I can't throw the ball downfield. So what do? They drop 7 guys in coverage.
4th and 3. How does Antonio Brown get that open and get 12 yards on the 4th and 3?
Tell me, I don't know.
Jim, my question is not some of those late coaching decisions from Marvin Lewis and company. I look at what this coaching staff was trying to drill into these guys before the game started. How did they lose their poise again in this game?
It's an emotional game, and that's the thing they have to figure out is why does this, not just this game, but if you go back to the other playoff games, these teams that they did things they don't normally do. They give up a whole bunch of yards rushing in when they hadn't been giving them up. Like guys aren't doing what they're supposed to do, so you lose your poise. You made a comment earlier, Ken, about the Steelers baiting. I tend to agree. I tend to think that Burfict is the baiter. He does more of that himself. I think he consciously does a lot of the things he does to get the other teams to respond.
Yeah, but Jim, you know what? I mean, you don't need that. Everybody says, he makes all these great plays. I think in the back of his mind, somebody said, or he thinks, that a great play is taking a player out of the game. So, I mean, you don't have to take Antonio Brown out of the game. You don't have to take Roethlisberger out of the game. You need to play Le'Veon Bell out of a game, which he did. You play to your ability, and you play that you respect the game. I think he has no respect for the game.
I think he's selfish.
I think he is too, and I don't think they need him, to be honest with you. If he can't play for Marvin Lewis, Jim, he can't play for maybe Rex Ryan, but that's about it in this league.
It'd be tough to find teams that put up with that behavior very long, that's for sure.
I'm sorry you lost your voice, but you still look good.
Well, I appreciate that.
Jim Breach, the Bengals' all-time leading scorer. Thank you, Jim.
All right, guys, thank you.
To kind of cap off this Burfict thing, we were talking in the locker room today about Burfict, how he kind of fits in analogy-wise as far as it came to a house. And another reporter said that, you don't throw away a house because it has a broken window. And I said, I don't think he's a broken window. I think he's termites. I think there's something structurally wrong
foundation.
with exactly. Something wrong with the foundation of this guy when it comes to playing football, because he's a pretty mild-mannered guy off the field, but when he puts that helmet on, he puts those pads on, he becomes this emotional wildebeest.
How much do you think this is the team's fault? Like they look at him as, hey, you're our emotional leader. You're the guy that we need you to be that way. That's what they say.
I think there's a lot of that.
Adam Jones, I mean, even when they're stretching out, Adam Jones is in his ear. I can't imagine Adam Jones is good for Burfict.
Well, he calls them his big brothers.
Well, but
they're
I know
tight.
because that's. I mean, but that's.
I think
What?
I don't even the Bengals. The Bengals blew it. It's hard to talk about this. I tried not to think about it for the last.
What if Marvin Lewis
But
sat
I think Marvin Lewis. I don't think he's ever going to be fired because this is Mike Brown doesn't.
Mike
think
Brown.
like Mike Brown is the problem really, but I think Marvin Lewis. I think a guy like Vontaze Burfict can be managed. He's a young man. And I think this is probably stretching farther than most people want to go, but I think a good coaching staff can manage Vontaze Burfict and focus him in the right direction.
Well, this coaching staff can't.
I don't think they can manage anything. That's why they've proven it. They don't know how to call a timeout.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Vontaze Burfict's 25 years old.
And they don't know how to manage anything. And a guy like Marvin and a guy like even Mike Brown, there's a difference between knowing what should happen, being able to say what should happen, and then being able to make what you think should happen. I don't think he knows how to do that.
Here's
at all.
Vontaze Burfict in the last 10 days, okay? He takes a cheap shot at the tight end from Baltimore, which showed up on the internet, didn't get flagged for it. He goes and he plays that game on Saturday night. He starts head hunting. Okay, this guy was head hunting.
Who?
Vontaze Burfict was headhunting for that whole game.
Who did he hunt?
What?
Who did he headhunt?
I saw
Did you not see what he did to Antonio Brown?
The replay of Roethlisberger,
think
the
that was-
supposedly legal hit.
Yeah, he need him, right?
When he's down on top of him, he adjusts his entire body and then knees him right in the shoulder that it gets injured.
And on top of that, David DeCastro, a Steelers offensive lineman on a Pittsburgh radio station, said today that Burfict spit on him on Saturday night. This is a player that's out of control. You don't need this guy. This is not the NFL in 1995 or 2000. You can find linebackers anywhere. You need edge rushers and you need cornerbacks because those are the playmakers. An inside linebacker you can find anywhere. And as valuable as he is, with his interceptions and with his hard hits that are legal, as valuable as that may be, he's high risk, high reward, and he was in large part a reason why they lost that game on Saturday night.
The Bengals really don't play a defense that uses edge rushers. You know what I mean? They don't play a 3-4. So
Well, they do have defensive ends.
yeah, but
okay.
yeah,
But they're linebackers.
I thought you were talking about linebackers.
That's why they
Strictly
dropped a lot of
linebackers.
money on both Michael Johnson and Carlos Dunlap.
All right, we're getting lost in like most Facebook conversations right now. We got a long time to go. Let's talk about what's going to come up with next year's team and what that might look like.
I mean, this is a great list, but I think the most important free agents that the Bengals have are their coaching staff. I mean, you're looking at both coordinators possibly leaving. You're looking at.
Well, if you would have been to the meeting, Keenan, that's later on in the show.
I'm sorry.
Well, let's go down the list. Leon Hall is gone. They're not going to bring Leon Hall back.
Too much money.
Andre
let's see
Smith
what
is
they
gone.
got.
Somebody will sign him.
Yeah.
They ought to re-sign Nelson, but I think he could be gone. Vinny
Too
Ray,
expensive.
I think he'll be back.
lot of
Adam
these guys-
Jones
a lot of
turned
these
down a
guys are
deal
pretty-
before the season began. It was 3 years, $21 million. So I don't know what number he wants.
A lot of
to
these
go back.
guys who are really important are pretty low priced on this list, but I don't know. They're obviously not going to go after all of them.
No.
I
I
mean,
think
when you
they
think
should-
about like what Marvin Jones is making,
Oh, yeah,
700,
he's-
you know, I mean, they could triple his salary, 4 times it, and it would be
Well,
worth that.
a lot of these positions are kind of overlapping. You have 2 safeties on here. You have 2 wide receivers. It's almost an either-or proposition with
And
a lot
that's
of these
exactly
guys.
how Mike's going to look at it, and he's going to, he'll look at the salary and so on. I mean, and that's the nature of the NFL. But yeah,
Reggie Nelson's gone.
Yeah, Reggie Nelson's gone only because of the price tag,
Right.
I think.
And the fact he's a Pro Bowler, he's got, I don't
Yeah.
know, what,
And
8
Well, I
interceptions?
think you're probably right, but given that you're dumping Hall, and then you're gonna start over, I think.
Well, I don't think we're arguing
think
that
they're
it's a
fine
bad
with that
idea to get rid of Reggie Nelson.
No,
I think we're arguing that Mike
what the
Brown's not
Bengals-
going to do it.
I agree. I'm just saying, given that he's getting rid of Hall, I think Nelson could be kept. I mean, they saw what happened when you get rid of a guy like Jonathan Joseph or something. You have a drop off, but I think a lot of this money's going to be gone, and so they'll free up a little room. But I wouldn't write it off completely. But I don't.
You're going to pay Reggie Nelson $10 million a year?
No way. I mean, you still have these young guys.
Much, but he's worth a whole lot. He's one of the best defensive backs in the league.
Well, he is, and he knows it, and so does everybody on the team.
If you're paying Leon Hall $9 million, and you're going to get rid of that,
I think
you can give Reggie that.
I think it's more likely they keep Iloka because he's more affordable. And although Hall made some big plays this year, Iloka has turned out to be a really good safety. I think the targets on this list are Marvin Jones, George Iloka, and probably Vincent Ray.
I agree with all three of those selections, actually.
How about Sanu?
I don't think you're going to be able to keep him.
They don't need him.
And you have Eifert who has emerged as really that third receiver that you need on this team anyway. I don't think you really need Sanu. As much as I like him, with the Wildcat stuff that he's able to bring to the table.
And sadly, I think Andre Smith is going to get some decent offers.
Well, we got somebody behind him, though, right? Don't we have somebody?
Yeah, they drafted two tackles.
Yeah, okay.
Well, one that they tried to make a fullback this year, but they drafted two tackles. I think he steps into that right tackle spot, and then you see Fisher somewhere in the mix, maybe as the swing tackle or maybe kick him inside.
Yeah. Well,
there's a lot of decision making, and it's hard to ever try to predict.
No.
But it's going to be a different team.
But it's fun to talk about OPM. That would be other people's money.
I did talk to Iloka in the locker room today, just about an hour ago, and he seems kind of resigned that he might not be back. He wants to be back, but he kind of equated it to Iloka. Yeah, is that what it?
I'm just saying, is that I missed it?
Yeah, George Iloka. Yeah, but he equated to kind of graduation from high school. Like I've been here 4 years. It might just be time for me to move on.
And they're pretty. I mean, when you think they have Darquez Denard, Drake Kirkpatrick will be back.
Shaw.
Josh Shaw. They have. If they bring, I do think they'll bring Iloka back. I mean, that's a pretty good nucleus there, and I don't think that they can afford Leon Hall. I don't think Leon Hall at his age and his physical status, he might come back for one of those bargain basement deals.
Right. Nobody's going to sign him for $9 million.
Well, the problem is the thing that was so great about the Bengals this year was the depth that they had, and when you look at this list, you see a lot of that depth is going to go away for unproven guys that are youngsters that are playing on their first deals.
I think this team will look remarkably different than it did last year.
Let's bring in someone else who's probably shell-shocked and possibly coming back down to earth today. Tanner Myers. Good afternoon, Tanner.
Hey guys, how's it going?
How are you doing?
Well, my voice is starting to come back, and the reality truly is setting in today. But, you got to look at this game. I mean, take it as it is. We played a great season. When was the last time the Bengals did this good? Everybody wants to focus on the negative. Let's look at the positives. Let's look at what we did good. I mean, we went, started out the season with no losses, none. So to go this far, I mean, it's absolutely commendable.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the bottom line.
Mike Brown's got a job for you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, here's the bottom line: is 90% of the people that were at that stadium on Saturday night, they could care less about 12-4.
Yeah, it was
they
about
wanted
being
to see
1-0.
a playoff game.
Yep.
You got that right. You absolutely got that right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was. I agree with you. I think it was commendable. I mean, I think 12-4 is a great season.
It's the best season in franchise history.
We sat here in this room 3 or 4 months ago, and only the most diehard of us in the room thought the Bengals were going to win the division and have a good year.
And you still have those $10 in your pocket.
I think if the Bengals had gone into this game and it had been a match and they had lost, maybe like the Redskins Packers game where by the fourth quarter it was obvious what was going to happen, and that would have been less of a heartbreak than to see it go down this way, to be the last 2 minutes of the season to end with such a heartbreak.
Thrown away.
Yeah.
And, I want to thank Clark Harris, who gave me tickets to the game, the long snapper. And so I was there watching, and, this feeling came over that, oh, my God, are we going to break this curse? We are, is this really going to happen? And then to watch it just be, thrown in the trash, it was horrifying to see. And what was even worse was the way the fans reacted. You don't ever throw stuff on the field. I mean, when we have to watch the safeties and the cornerbacks kick off bottles so that they can continue playing, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100% on that. I thought that was disgraceful, and people say, well, it was only a handful. I don't care if it was one person.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why Cincinnati should be different than the Clevelands of the world.
Exactly.
We this is above all else has always been a polite town. And, people have a very different, I mean, we're such a myopic society anymore. People have a tough time understanding that if your quarterback, if Dalton was being carted off the field in Pittsburgh and was getting pelted with stuff there like Roethlisberger was here, how would you feel? You'd be livid.
Exactly.
But everybody wants to get on social media and Twitter and Facebook and yap about good, I hate the Steelers and all that. And you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. Nobody respects this game anymore.
Yeah, it's all about respect.
Nobody respects the game of football anymore. It's, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to hit your guy. I'm going to, start a fight with you in the stands. It's a great game that's just turned into basically beer muscles out there.
You're right about that. You're exactly right. And I don't know if it was, sitting with the families of Steelers players or what, but, we completely agreed. We said, it's a game. Yeah, it's just people's lives. This is their job, 365 days a year. But all in all, it's a game. We're all humans.
Yep.
We all put our pants on one leg at a time.
Not me.
Oh, man.
No, I sit there, I pull my legs up and just pull them both on at the same time.
That's a terrible visual.
Yeah, you just put a pause on everything right there for a
Thank
second.
you.
We just lost all of our viewers.
Tanner, thank you so much for joining us this year. It's going to be all right, okay?
Absolutely. Of course, life goes on. Although it sucks. It's just downright.
I know it does, young buck. Thanks for joining us, Tanner.
Absolutely. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah,
Later, too.
good kid.
Yeah.
Very articulate.
Well, he's a redhead, too. So
And he,
that's why you like him.
and he got tickets from a player. That's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Okay, Keenan, here we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. But yeah, I think the Dolphins hired somebody, but
And Adam
there's
Gase.
there's 6 open positions. Hugh seems to be a lock to get one of them because I think they're all calling him.
Yeah.
Right.
He's with the
Gunther's
Giants today, yeah.
Yeah, Gunther definitely is going to get some looks.
Well, he's interviewing with the
Brown.
Eagles and the Browns.
Yeah. He has less experience. I think he's less of a lock to go. It's the kind of thing like Mike Zimmer. I feel like it's like Mike Zimmer a few years before he went. He started to get interviews, and it'll build up over time. But who knows? But Hugh leaving, I'm not.
Vance Joseph is going to.
Hugh
He's supposed to be going to Miami too.
I don't think Hugh is what everybody thinks makes him out to be. I don't think he was a good head coach, and I think he's suspect
Yeah.
at times.
What do you have? 1 year?
Yeah, but he shot his
In
mouth
Oakland?
off. He shot his mouth off at ownership. I mean,
I'm not saying he's terrible. I just don't think I think he's going to get attention and probably get a job, but I don't think
He went
is.
8-8 in Oakland. You know how hard it is to end up?
I bet you San
right, they were on the
Francisco
up
was
and
the
up with
leader
him.
there. But of all those, if I'm him, I'm going to the Giants. He's
more
got
of
a
a-
quarterback
yeah.
in
The
New York.
offense is there.
He's got Odell
Right.
Beckham. So I would go
He'd
there.
be great with that media.
And people are running from the Browns. I saw this on Pro Football Rumors last night. Is that everybody the Browns have interviewed?
Have said
They're
no.
saying we don't want this. They got some baseball guy running the front office. What's that? So I would say of all those openings, probably the Giants would be the best landing spot, and maybe after that San Francisco.
Well,
Just
Tampa
'cause
Bay,
it's-
you have a quarterback. I think a lot of coaches you look at. Can we bring that graphic back up? I
Yeah,
think you look at.
I-
I think you look at who has a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
The Giants have a franchise quarterback. The Bucks and the Titans
Yeah.
potentially have franchise
Well,
quarterbacks.
the Bucks are going to hire allegedly promote their offensive
Dirk Cutter,
coordinator.
right?
The Titans have got a quarterback too. The Browns don't, and you can't find there. You can't. If you can't draft a quarterback, and there doesn't seem to be any franchise quarterbacks in this draft, you're not going to go out and sign somebody. What is he? I mean, if he went to Cleveland, his best bet would try to convince Mike Brown to trade A.J. McCarron.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think A.J. McCarron is a franchise quarterback, or has he
played
gotten in
well.
that conversation? Do you think he goes somewhere else?
No, I think he played well with limited experience down here, but I thought all the games I watched McCarron, I don't know if you feel this way, he just seemed to be off a tick. He would be a
half second
off on a throw he's supposed to make, and then he's throwing the ball in the stands. And that only comes from experience. He just doesn't have the experience at this point.
Let me ask you guys this. Are the Bengals in the business of running a head coach farm? It seems like, we got two coordinators leave a couple years ago. Now we got two that are about to leave this year.
You're doing your job then. I mean, you want your guys to be valued and to be pursued by other people. You don't want it the other way around. Sorry to keep bringing up Cleveland, but you don't want a Cleveland situation where you guys keep getting fired. Sorry, Libby, but I think that's obviously it sucks. You don't want to lose that continuity, but you want your guys to be valued and to be taken by other teams.
I agree, and I think that folds back onto Marvin Lewis. All these people that want to run Marvin Lewis out of town, I mean, he's doing some things that are good. It's just that January comes, and for whatever reason, his teams just apple up.
Yeah.
Do we have Rodney Heath on Skype?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is it yes or is it no, Libby?
Hey, take it easy over there, okay?
Is Rodney wearing a tank top? Is my question.
No, but we did have to get late arrangements today. He doesn't have his tuxedo on, which he usually has for us. Rodney, how are you doing this afternoon?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
We
we
got
got
you.
you.
Yeah, no, you look good,
we
man.
do.
You look good.
Now get your hand in front of your hand. Hold on, what are you doing?
No questions. No questions.
Yeah, okay.
We talked to Rodney.
I guess-
We talked to Rodney on 9 on Your Side's special edition of Meyer Sports of All Sorts on Saturday night. I thought, and we were talking about it when Burfict runs up the tunnel, and they start partying in the tunnel. I'm saying to myself, "What's this? You still got to play some football, son." And I didn't. I thought maybe that's where it started going south on him. What about you?
I thought it was too premature. I mean, I thought for one, I hoped that he wouldn't get a penalty. That's the first thing I thought. You know, I was like, you know, there's still time left on the clock. You still had, you know, Pittsburgh still had timeouts, man. So at that time, I wanted them to still continue to keep focus on the big picture here and don't just jump to the gun like that.
Rodney, so let's say you win the Powerball. You then buy the Bengals. Mm-hmm. Do you bring back Vontaze Burfict next year?
Well, you be asking some tough ones, don't you? We got to sit down and talk. We're going to have a long talk. It's going to have to be, you know, what's more important. This team comes first. And you got to learn to control the emotions. We understand how this game was with Pittsburgh and how physical it was. And even going back to week 14, and, you know, Vontaze has had a history with a lot of teams, but especially Pittsburgh, with the Le'Veon Bell situation and, you know, how they felt about him. So I would really have to talk to him and let him know that, you know, the team comes first.
But you can talk from now until July to somebody that doesn't get it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think he gets it. I don't. And as Tony Dungy said yesterday, 31 teams passed on this guy because they knew he was a problem. Marvin Lewis might have been the only coach out there that could work with this guy because Marvin's got parenting skills and he's got, you know, teaching skills. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't get credit for a lot of the things that he does. But it's obvious this guy's not listening to Marvin Lewis. I mean, he's a multiple offender with the way he conducts himself on the field. And I'm just wondering, Rodney, you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I'm not going to waste any more time on you. He has to spend time during a game calming Vontaze Burfict down rather than concentrating on what his job is supposed to be. You can't have that. You got 50 other guys that you're responsible for.
Well, I mean, with that being said, I agree with you. I mean, you had to deal with Chad Johnson in a way, not to this level. You had Chris Henry was here, and at that point, I mean, when you look at it in that situation, he's not bigger than the team. So it's a tough situation for Marvin. You know how he is, man. He's a player's coach. Mm-hmm. So, but also your job comes first too. So in the end, I mean, it's a tough thing. I mean, I wouldn't want him back if he's not going to change. And from what you're saying, Ken, I mean, I agree with you, Keenan. I mean, it's just me right now in the middle. I'm still thinking like, you know, is it a chance because of how good of a player he is? And, you know, right now, he being good as a player and 31 teams passing on you, I mean, at this point, man, we got to see what happens, man.
Rodney, what do you feel do you think that there's a lack of ability on the coaching staff to deal with something like this? Or do you just think these players that you just described are just the kind that would cause Bill Belichick problems and whoever else problems, and it's an unmanageable thing? I don't know. Sometimes, and maybe it's just the accumulated effect of all these playoff losses, but sometimes I just think Marvin really doesn't know how to get in somebody's head and really make them think the right way.
Well, I mean, you think about when he was in Baltimore as the defensive coordinator, You didn't hear anything like that. So could it have been Belichick, who was the head coach, who was running the system the way he wanted it,
Billick,
and they had that respect? So now you turn it over, and, it's just his team, and he's had histories with several players who have been an issue. I think being a player's coach like LeBeau was and a lot of those guys, they tend to get on you. But there's some guys, it's like if he's going to be the guy who's the jerk or he's going to be the bad guy as a head coach, you don't see that in Marvin. You don't really see that with him. You see him as a good guy, right? So when you turn around and you look at a Belichick or a Tom Coughlin or some of those guys who don't care about being a player's coach, those type of guys right there, or the Bill Parcells. I think with Vontaze, if he was coached by some of those guys, would he be the same way? I don't think he would be, because he probably wouldn't be there for one. So,
Right.
in the end, I think to answer your question, I don't think it's that type of system that's being ran or coaching staff that they have intact for the Bengals right now. And, because they haven't had to go to the playoffs. I mean, they've been losing and things of that nature. Not losing, but not winning in the playoffs. And now it shows up at the wrong time now. All of that, they didn't have any composure. So it looked like there was a team that wasn't used to being there. And it just showed at the wrong time. So
If Mike Brown is not going to fire Marvin Lewis, he has a contract for next year. He's perfect for Mike. Mike doesn't have to do anything in the media. Marvin answers all the questions. But if you're Mike Brown, and he did sit down with Marvin today, they always do. Rodney, what if you're Mike Brown, what are you telling Marvin Lewis today in light of what happened this season and on Saturday night? How would that conversation go if you were Mike Brown?
I would probably start from the end, the freshest thing that's on our mind of what happened. We gotta deal with that situation. You have to deal with the conduct of some of your players that you have, and that could be a cancer. One spoiled apple spoils a bunch. So you got to deal with that situation and talk about that. You can get to all the positives, and there's been a lot of positives this season in what they had. I mean, he had to deal with the fact of injuries like every other team, and he had to deal with the fact of trying to get a quarterback to come in and get to the playoffs and make sure that we can have this opportunity to be where they were the other night. So at this point, if I'm Mr. Brown, I would sit here and tell him, you can't put the blame on him completely. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that at all. So you're looking at it that way. We need to deal with this conduct situation first.
Well, it's always good seeing you, Rodney. I'm sorry you're not in where we can see those guns, those 16-inch pythons.
Hey, man.
Do you take supplements?
I always notice that.
Do you take supplements?
Nah, I don't take any.
Get out of his locker.
Get
out of his locker.
All natural. He's all natural.
That's why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Natural. All natural, baby.
Thank you, Rodney.
All right, Rod.
Fine, fellas. Have a good one, man.
If I'm Mike Brown and I'm talking to Marvin today, this is what I'm telling him.
Here we go.
Marvin, you're good for me. You're good for this team. You do a lot of good things in the city. But I think you got a problem focusing. I think maybe in these critical situations, maybe you're either delegating too much to your coordinators, or you're not doing enough on your own and they're looking for you to do something. But you got a problem. And this is not just Saturday night. It's historical now in these big time games.
Document it.
And I think Marvin Lewis, I don't know, this may not be even a popular opinion inside of this room, but I think Marvin Lewis is a good coach. I think he's a good head coach. A head coach is a CEO, he's a front guy, and he signs off on a game plan that his coordinators bring to him. I think he does all of that stuff well. I don't think what he does well is in a game, in critical situations, usually at the end of halves or games, things seem to get a little bit out of control. And that's my conversation this is what we've really got to work on.
The little things.
But I think anybody that thinks Marvin Lewis should be fired, I'm sorry, I think you're wrong. I think he does a really good job and up until 2011, you can't hold him responsible for anything because the family ran the franchise. Now he's got a little more leeway.
Well, everybody wants to point out the problem, but what's the solution then? If you do get rid of Marvin Lewis,
who do you hire?
You know who you hire? You would hire another puppet. Marvin wrestled power away because Marvin had gravitas. But you hire somebody and you get a coordinator in here that has no head coaching experience, you're right back to where you were when they hired him.
Sounds like a Dusty Baker situation here.
Right. I mean, that's my feeling on Marvin Lewis. I hope he's here for a long time. This is a guy that went 12-4 this year.
I don't think
gotten his team to the playoffs the last 5 years. I mean, it's not like he's some stumble bump.
Yeah, I think he's more part of the solution than the problem.
I agree.
Just like how we had the Andy Dalton discussion before the season started. I think, you know, he's not someone that you point to and say, all right, we got to get rid of this guy, or we're not going to be able to succeed.
Right.
But 0-7 in the playoffs is 0-7 in the playoffs.
That's a problem. But I think that's what needs to be addressed. And maybe you say, look, this is where your growth is going to come. And hopefully they make the playoffs next year, because I'm not sure that's a given.
I agree. I think this is a season of upheaval. I think they might be starting back at square one.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd want to know what happened to your running game this year. You know?
Jeremy Hill's what happened. Jeremy Hill, 3.6 yards per carry this year.
How much for Gio?
4 fumbles.
Well, they thought that their running game would be their strength, and it absolutely wasn't.
Well, is it the running game or is it Jeremy? Because Gio seemed to have an okay year running the ball. I think Gio's numbers were, 4.5 yards per clip, so I don't know if it's necessarily Gio or the running game. I think it might be Jeremy Hill trying to beat Gio, trying to hit home runs instead of hitting singles and doubles.
Well,
that's
I
what
don't
I
know.
see.
Or is it the offensive line?
The running game,
but they have the same offensive
the
line.
running game is good enough to get them where they want to go. It's a middle of the road as far as statistically, and with all the other things they had on this team, it's not the reason that they didn't win in the playoffs. It's not. I mean, with everything that happened, I think, for what it's worth, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of the year, this team, the only thing it had to prove was composure. That is the only thing it had to prove, and they failed again.
Yeah.
And when you say, and I appreciate what you're saying, I've been watching this team since its inception. I've been a season ticket holder for 30 years now, and that's the thing that they've always lacked in the whole Mike Brown era. And I'm willing to, and I appreciate that I went through the lost decade of the 90s, and I went to the games when nobody wanted to go. You couldn't even give away a ticket. It was hard just to get somebody to go. But I want to believe that this team can go somewhere in the playoffs, not just because they've lost 5 games in a row, just in general, even if they hadn't gone in the last 5 years. And I don't believe that with Marvin Lewis as the head coach. I don't believe that. Even if they would have won the game the other night, if Jeremy doesn't fumble and they squeak that one out and they move on, I would just be sitting there waiting until it's the Super Bowl and it's the end and we don't know how to call a timeout. I just know in my deepest recesses, my heart of hearts, that was going to rear its ugly head, and we could not go through 3 or 4 playoff games without somebody just saying, why don't they know what they're doing? And it always happens, and I'd be willing to trash the whole thing on the coaching staff and start over because they got a great team. And I'd rather have a guy like Tom Coughlin who, half the time or more, they don't go to the playoffs. But when they get in there, they focus, and they can get through the playoffs and get on a roll. I don't think this team ever had that capability.
Yeah, but I gotta. Yes, what you're saying is it's game management is what you're talking about. The way he manages,
and he's never going to learn it. They don't think they're screwing it up.
Yeah,
I don't think they believe that they. I think they know. I think they know how to call a timeout.
Well, it may not be
ridiculous.
It may not be a problem because, as Keenan said, and we just showed graphically, I think next year is going to be a year of transition. I think they're going to have a tough time replicating in any way, shape, or form what they did this year. I think are they set at wide receiver? They have A.J. Green. Are they set at quarterback? They have Andy Dalton. Are they set at interior line? They have Geno Atkins. They have Carlos Dunlap. But I'm not sure that this team and all of the great things that it did this year, I'm not sure it can replicate those things next year. Can they be a contending team? I think so. But
I'll still bet you you could trash the whole coaching staff, and I'd bet you it's 10 wins or more.
We do play the NFC.
For next year.
They will. They got Eifert and Green and Dalton. That will get you an offense because they can't focus on the run game or the pass game. You have to respect that. The defensive line, all those things that you just mentioned, are a team that can win 10 games. And they're going to be that good again. They're going to have the same monkey on their back. They're going to have to go to the playoffs and win. And that's why I think it's going to be forever. And nobody's ever going to be able to get past it because they've gotten themselves in this position.
Then what you're saying is Marvin Lewis has taken this team to a plateau and he can't get past it.
Abso-friggin-lutely.
And in essence, that was the thinking. That was the thinking, I think, and a lot of times with a lot of teams is he got us here, he couldn't get us here. Tony Dungy got bounced in Tampa because he couldn't get him to the next level, and
Dusty Baker.
I think Dusty Baker was bounced because everybody knew they were going to have a lousy team with young players, and he
Well,
wouldn't stand for
but
it.
it was, but they told him that last year that you got to be able to do something, and I think that as sort of Cincinnati-like that the Castellinis are, and sort of Brown family-like, they're not going to put up with it forever. If the Reds would have gone to the playoffs 6 straight years and lost in the first round, we wouldn't have gotten that far. They would have fired somebody, and that's what should happen. That's just life in the NFL. You shouldn't keep your job if you do this. You shouldn't.
Well, then if that's the case, then they better go find Hugh Jackson.
Yeah,
and say,
he's the
"Where
one
are
who
you
started.
today?"
He's the one who started the fight with Chad in the 2005 game in the
Yeah.
locker room.
Yeah.
So that's what you want?
Yeah. Well, no, but what I'm saying is it's easy to say get rid of a guy. It's harder to say who you're going to bring in.
Right.
And I don't think Tom Coughlin coming into here. Tom Coughlin was interviewed for this job before Marvin, and he wanted to change everything. He wanted everything right down to the PR staff being gone, lopped off. And Mike Brown didn't want it. He doesn't want to give up that kind of control to anybody.
That's
and
true.
coaches
I agree.
that are any good want that kind of control. And I just don't think you're going to get a guy in here that's going to be anything more than a puppet, and then you're right back to where you were in the Bruce Coslett, Dick LeBeau era.
I think Mike Brown's thrilled with this plateau.
I agree too. Mike
This
Brown,
perfect
this is the
situation.
glory days.
Yep.
Oh,
Got
yeah. He
next-
doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, you got an
You
extra
win-
game.
You win a
Yeah.
Super Bowl, you're in trouble. Now you got salaries, expectations. My God, one and done in the playoffs, that's perfect.
true.
Nobody's getting an ego.
Right, and it's 8 months till the next game, and everybody will forget about this.
Yep.
It'll be gone.
Nah, I don't know, man.
I think so. I mean,
All
I
of you-
remember when they were 8-0, everyone in this room,
You
and everyone out there
gonna
was-
get your tickets for next year, Matt?
Yeah.
Well, then you've forgotten about it. You've got Bengal amnesia.
I love the NFL and I love
Well-
going to the games. And if I'm living in a city that has a team, I'm going to buy the tickets. And that's the way I am. I want to go to the
Sheep.
game. Huh?
Sheep.
Yeah,
Well,
you're part
okay,
of the problem.
whatever. Okay. Okay, it's my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize.
All right, well,
To all
so-
the Bengal fans, I apologize.
This is our final Pigskin Show, because the season ended abruptly, but we're back in the spring with the 5th mascot. This is pretty exciting. It starts in April, and then, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we're done in June. Maybe we go to September.
May.
You never
We make
know.
it to May. I don't know if we make it to June.
Yeah, All-Star break is the over-under.
That's right. But anyway, it's been fun. These shows are fun.
They're great.
Again, thanks to Furniture Fair for great stuff to sit on and be comfortable on, and everybody.
Sleep on when the wife gets mad.
Thanks to
That's
Mr. Satin, who is
Mr. Satin, who was
absent today.
indisposed
That's
today,
right. But he's
and-
wonderful.
He's in mourning.
You know who's loving this? The real McCoy.
Yeah, thanks to Real McCoy.
He was in here talking trash earlier.
Yeah, he was good this
Thanks
year.
to Mike and everybody that
Twisting the
participated. Look, hey, sun's going to come up tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that the sun will shine. It's only a game. Don't
Are
throw
you
any.
singing Annie?
Yes,
Because she's
that's
a
what-
redhead?
yes,
She's a
He
redhead.
was, yes.
So many
Thank you,
redheads in
Keenan.
my life.
Thank you, Keenan, for recognizing that.
Thank you for watching the Flying Pigskin. And remember, it's only a game. Don't throw things at anybody.